Freud is funny, man. They thought he was, so this dude was wild. Freud was all about sexual unconscious responses to everything. And I like to understand them through Jung. And, it starts off with our anima. Like as men, we have an anima, and which is our inner woman, and females have an animus, which is their inner man. And the development of that anima, or animus, which I'm just going to say anima from now on, since we're talking about men first, and we can go interchangeably, is all about these stages in development, which I think correlate with Freud's whole system. And so, like that first phase, like I can start off with that first phase of, it's a lot of information. Like, so Jung, I like going by MBIT. He talks about these 8 cognitive functions, and we understand your ego and how you get your strength and how you approach your weaknesses. You can get into your shadow functions. So your first 4 functions are literally your ego and how you handle life with your strengths, and there'll be a intuitive system to it. Like if you lead with, say, external intuition, that would be how you handle life, and then your growth state would be, let's say for you it would be internal feeling. Basically, you're a hero with what others want, and you grow as you tap into what you feel. So that'll be your first 2 functions. Your third function will be the opposite of your second function. So that'll be what others think, and then your fourth function would be what you experience. So what you experience can be simplified as memory, since you gotta reflect. It's always going to be in the past, and that fourth function would be your anima, your inner woman. And that your connection to that fourth function as what you experience would be the gateway to your unconsciousness. Once you get to in your unconsciousness, you have 4 more functions, which are going to be the opposite introvertedly or extrovertedly of your first 4 functions. So since you lead with like you call it a hero, you lead with what others want, that would mean your rival would be what you want. So sometimes, and so that would be like, they call it a mercenary, but I like to simplify these in interactions as rivalry. So you could feel like only one can stand. Either you're standing with, like you're used to standing with, picking up a whole bunch of patterns in the world and other people. You can see where they're headed. You can see what everything wants, right? So when you start dealing with what you want, as in what you visualize, which is the precursor to all manifestation, is how you view everything, what you want out of life, what you choose to think about. They call that inner intuition. That can come up as a rival. Rivalry, I would say the healthy way is to learn to improve it. And oftentimes it can show up as people as mercenary, because, when people are competing, they can get kind of ugly and go about it like, give all, take all, whatever needs to be done, whatever needs to be done, it's like a mercenary. But pretty much, like, you can also think of it as a shadow version of those leading light functions. So the hero has a dark side. It's a mercenary, experienced through rivalry. Then how you help people in your second function of what you feel has a dark side, and that's what others feel. So that can be experienced through combat, which some people say they call it a witch or a wise old man, or they say witch or senex. But I just look at that as combat, because what does a critic do? A critic points out what's wrong. That can be seen as a hater, or it can be seen as wise counsel, depending on whether or not we respect it. So, that's what combat is all about. We try to pull people down because we don't think we can get better. And that means you could experience other people's feelings as, damn, they just hating on me, man. Like, I'm doing my thing over here, I'm in my element, and they talking about, you can't do that. That's wrong, but when you learn to just respect it, you can find the wisdom in it and actually point out where the wrongness could be. And so, that's just, again, it's an unconscious process. So, and all that's saying is you need light to see, but when you're dealing with the shadow, it's a little bit in the periphery. And when you deal with the periphery, it can lead back to not understanding what we're missing, overlooking it. So, so that's what they call the sixth function. So the fifth, the sixth, the fifth is a shadow world of the first. Sixth is a shadow of the second. So we get to the third, right? Let's say the third, it's where you draw inspiration from. So you draw inspiration from what others think. It's your inner child. The child wants to grow up, so it has inspiration. The shadow of that would be, let's say, the shadow of what others think would be what you think. And that can come off as they call it a trickster, like trick or treat. Children go dress up for Halloween, being little bad kids, whatever. You give them some candy, or they egg and TP your house, trick or treat. I don't look at it that way, because I find that a child who acts out is really just trying to get attention. So that's the part of us that supplicates. On a side note, it's been said that through this man, Billy Carson's pretty interesting, uncovering some ancient, I think, emerald tablet texts to say that our DNA has been altered and we've been putting in these, what do they call them? I don't even remember what they said, something on the DNA that makes us have a worship gene. I wouldn't simplify it as worship, but they say it's something that we've been altered to worship things outside of ourselves. I'll just refer to it as idolatry. This is supplication. So this is a part of us that deals with trying to get accepted or others trying to accept us, because there's a flip side to everything. And
right.
How we handle that is the same. It's through acceptance. So it's a part of us that's very blind and it can overlook. So let's say if you're an ENFP, which is really what I'm describing, that would mean your shadow function of your third function and where you get your inspiration would be where you deal with idolizing. So if it's true that something's been tampered in our DNA, that would explain a lot of social behavior for people screaming and trying to get accepted or whatever. This is the stereotype of, it's going to tie up when we get into the inner woman, because it relates to how we deal with the opposite sex, all these things. Specifically in the shadow functions through the awareness, conscious awareness of our inner woman, our anima. So this seventh function is where we deal with idealizing in a way. So this idealizing is like, I'm just trying to get accepted. So if you're trying to get it, that could show up for you as trying to get accepted for what you think. And comedy is usually a acceptable way to make people laugh. But I'm just assuming, like, I don't know if you're an ENFP or an ENTP, because then, if you're an ENTP, then half of what I'm telling you is not really going to apply in this order, but we could work around it. But for any ENFP that's listening, you got a free psychoanalysis. But pretty much what we're focusing on here is how the bright side of being inspired has a dark side of others wanting to idealize. And when they're idealizing, they're kind of missing the point of inspiration and looking into just wanting you to accept them, and really that can pull you down. So the best thing is to just accept them for what is acceptable and move on. And on the flip side, if you find yourself in that supplicative position, like, oh, let me buy this girl a drink and let her get comfortable with me, or let me do this to get accepted, like, or when it comes to trying to show off one's intellect while another person isn't really that interested, or, trying to dance for them and perform for them in a way that feels demeaning, just accept that that they're not really into it in a way to where you're not having to coax them, and you can allow yourself to break away with dignity, and they'll even feel better about you anyway and come around, if that makes sense. It's like the solution to ideology is just accepting that blind spot. So accepting that, look, this is how you think. Because usually when a person has this as a position, their thoughts might actually have value, but it might not be totally acceptable. And it's helpful to accept what isn't acceptable and to accept that as unacceptable so that it can improve and grow and gain respect, and also to accept someone else in the same thing and not accepting, because when you get to a point where you're shining, that can be one of the hard parts of being a celebrity. Celebrities can have fans that kind of make their career, but in a way they can end up supplicating for the fan.
Right.
And that when you supplicate, it brings your vibe way down. And then the final function would be the shadow of the anima, or the shadow of the fourth function, the inner woman, or for the women, the inner man. The shadow of that is known as a demon function. Kind of makes me think of Adam and Eve, kind of storytelling of being in a garden and having a demon versus an angel. Now, it can show up as an angel if you integrate it, but as a demon, this is the most blind spot that we have, where we're dealing with repression. This is like, it's so blind that we really don't see it. Like with the seventh function I mentioned, with supplication, we can at least see it, and there can be some denial present, but we just have to learn to accept it. But when you're dealing with the eighth and final function of the shadow, the demon, like in the ENFP's example, this would be what others what others are experiencing. And this could be like just highly deceptive. This is where we deal with deception. Deception is the ickiest of the icky. This is where we're talking about people who not only lie, cheat, steal. This is like, this can even be rape. I mean, because, really you're just going back to stealing when you're dealing with rape and killing, violent. But this isn't the same kind of violence in combat. This is like underhanded from a belief. This is from a belief of entitlement, like a deceptive belief, right? So this is where a person can have so much cognitive dissonance that they're not aware of how much harm that they're causing. But the flip side to this is all the person has to do is find integration. So taking the time to have integrity about it. It seeks integrity. When it finds integrity, this demon function can be a blessing to all. Like, this could be a person who finds an invention or an innovation that takes the skill set to a whole new level for the world, like a prime performance, a prime manifestation, I would even say, of what others are experiencing. This is like sensation. This is when getting into the five senses, getting into the moment. This is something I would say, like, someone who leads with exploration can learn the integration of what others experience by just really taking the time to not undermine it, like to really not allow it to be a repression, but just be aware of its existence. And mind you, when you're aware of a deceiver, you don't have to know that they're deceiving you, but the more you don't undermine that deceiver, I would say the less likely they're able to deceive you. And a lot of times, a lot of people, I believe we as humans get to that level of deceiving because we feel as if we don't exist, which is an obvious deception, like, feeling invisible. And oftentimes, like, the levels, they go up and down depending on frustration. So, and it's all about confidence. A perfect example is when someone's trying to get accepted, they might be like the guy who gets friend zoned and he's like, oh, I really like this girl, and he isn't aware that he's supplicating him. It's a bit of a blind spot for him, and he could be dealing with the denial that he's like, I just want her to, I just want her to like me. So, I wrote her this song, or, I'm doing this for her. It's like some kind of performance of, oh yeah, like I did all this for her, or I bought her. So the stuff, why doesn't she like me? And, for the girl, I'm going to let y'all know that deception is on, I don't want to just call it deception yet, but it's on both sides. Because it can either come to you when you're supplicating, or when somebody's supplicating to you. And if you accept this person's gifts because they're gassing you up and they're giving you all this stuff, and you accept it like well, I mean, hey, I'm pretty, I deserve it. Like, you're ignoring that this person is falling. And what happens is, sad to say, when a person supplicates, it's a bit of a trickster. I mean, they also describe it as a double bind, which is why I call it supplication, because when somebody buys something for somebody, they believe that they're owed something. So it's not always like, oh, you know, this person got a free meal just because the person's nice, but they're like, okay, but now you owe them. It's like, so what, you ain't going to go to the house, you ain't going to hang out with them, you going to treat them like you don't see them now, like, and it's, you can see how it leads to deception, right?
Right.
Like, if that, you know, because the idea is like, the person's accepting that the gifts, but they aren't accepting the person. The person wants to be accepted. What's acceptable would possibly be, you know, how that person feels, because that's true. That person likes this person. At least they like this attribute of that person. But what's unacceptable is you can buy this person, because you can't make a person like you by buying stuff for them. It just won't happen like that. They like what you're buying them. They might not like you. So if a person who's supplicating gets accepted, and all they have to do is accept that they've been accepted for that, they now can have value in themselves and simply move on by just accepting that. They can learn some respect. They can earn respect, and they respect themselves because they're not lowering themselves to try to hype this person up in a semi-manipulative fashion, but they can be honorable about it and then find that, oh, okay, they actually have respect and gain respect and feel better about that position and get closer to what they actually want or what they actually care about. But if this person gets used, like they keep taking them out to dinner, they keep giving them gifts, they keep dancing for them, and then they find out this person don't even like them, and they see them with somebody else, they can get so angry. Like, some people might assume, they might be like, that's the last straw, it's the last time I buy somebody something. But they could get, instead of motivated to do better for themselves and accept that that is reality, this person can just feel so invisible that they take it. They find a way to trick the person and try to take it. And honestly, man, too much people in society ignore that. When they show these movies of like the underdog going up, they kind of paint this false narrative in life that, hey, the nice guy's going to finish last because he's being nice and that person just wasn't right. There's some truth to that, but it's not about being nice and buying people and to save the day, but it's about understanding where your true value is and integrating the ugly parts of yourself and also accepting the ugly parts of what it is that we're idealizing, which goes into the development of the anima. But I just wanted to definitely get that point across, that individuals that are trying to buy people, they have a dark side that they want what they want. And I like to remind, because it's not just to women, every women supplicate too. I believe society more often hears about the men supplicating. But the point is, that person wants what they want. All these girls that have these guy friends and the guy's doing all this stuff, sad to say, but the guy's not being the better version of himself. He's sacrificing himself to give to you to try to get in your limelight, which you don't feel for him because he's not being his better version of himself. And for you to like, he's not even being a man, you know, which is required for you to really feel like a woman for him. He's coming off more like a child, because that's literally the dark aspect of his child that he's presenting when he's supplicating. And that's bringing out a immature child for you to accept that and ignore the truth that this person is not really growing. So after a while, the person getting used, they feel used. It's like ignoring, like you can't ignore what somebody wants, basically. If the person wants you, they want to be with you, and you tell them the truth, like, look, I don't want to be with you, you're assuming that they're accepting that, but they're choosing to stay in your life. If that person keeps lying to themselves that they can win you over and that you're going to like them eventually, and you see that they still like you, but you just lie to yourself start to lie to yourself that, hey, you're just awesome, and of course they're attracted to you, and they have a chance, but you don't see it really being a chance, but you think you're just being nice, you're starting to supplicate back, and that lowers you. That messes your energy up. And then when that dude comes back around, if he gets to a point where he really doesn't believe he can do it, but he still wants it, that's where you get the issues of rape. And I'm not going to say every single guy in the friend zone is going to rape you, but I think that there is a correlation with why majority of rape cases don't seem to come from strangers in the street abducting people, but from close people in your life.
Interesting.
I'm not the expert on the statistics, but I have heard it quite often from a lot of different sources that rape comes from like an uncle, a family friend, a guy that the girl knew, a guy like these aren't just random ass dudes in the street lurking behind a corner with chloroform or a dart gun, a little tranquilizer gun. These are usually dudes that the girl has been leading on, whether it be unconsciously. And I think if more people had the conversation to admit, like, don't use that person. Be real. There are a lot of women who straight up will tell a dude, like, you ain't getting it, bro. And they walk off. They ain't even going to hang out with them or accept the gift. Some cultures will say, hey, if you don't want to sleep with them, don't accept them from them. But this would be why, like on the deeper level of objective human observation called psychology, this would explain a lot more and really help a lot more people. Because I would say it's deception of both sides, really. But you could almost say supplication is a little bit of deception, but it's not. But it's a little underhanded. But, when the confidence drops, that's where you get this degenerate behavior. And it's sick. It's sickening. I mean, and you can see it in a lot of people. And I think people should be mature enough people should really talk about this when they talk about sex, really. Because there's a way to get sex. And no, it's deeper than just, okay, kids, you're in high school, they teach you about condoms. I mean, a monkey can learn how to put on a condom. Like, what are you really teaching these kids about sex?
Exactly.
You feel me? Like, teach them about consent. But you know what consent really comes down to, right? It's not like a everyday conversation of, hey, you're pretty. Would you like to consent to premarital relations? I have a condom. People don't work like that. That's why they got pickup artists and games. They got pimps and hoes. They got renegade prostitutes walking around, with the big old coat on and the booty hanging out. Like, people in society, it's about time we integrate our shadow collectively. Because if individuals can do this, for sure, like, it really don't make sense to me that we're going to censor the television and have parental guidance, but we're going to have billboards talking about what a pair with some big ass titties in a bikini talking about, I don't even remember what they were advertising. I was just a little kid going, oh shit. And you can be like, okay, you should accept their culture, but I mean, parental guidance, man, like you're going to end up having to talk to that kid about why his wee-wee's getting hard.
Right.
Because a little boy don't have to stare to be like, holy shit. If a little boy saw a pride event and saw like these big ass titties and ass hanging out everywhere, he could be 6, 7 years old. He could see that shit for like 3 seconds, and the parent can be like, oh, come here, Timmy. Don't think about that. He's going to be thinking about that all day.
Yep.
Because in our society, people don't walk around with their ass and titties hanging out. So that's like a what the hell? And it's because we've been repressing the image of it to where it's like, oh, shit, I've never seen that. I like that. Like, what is that? And the parents like, parents get mad, man, talking about, it's rude to stare, but at the same time, let's not body shame. So I realize it's definitely a cultural thing, but, people get stimulated from the get-go, and this leads us into Freudian psychology. Like Freud and Jung, Jung, I like Jung's framework, and it helps me understand what Freud brought. He was talking about when we're kids, right? We're babies. I forget the exact ages, but the years of potty training, called the anal retentive stage, is the precursor to how we handle authority. So, like, the healthy person, The idea is like your kid, they teach you how to poop and they're patient with you. You go poop, you go wee-wee correctly. Now you can effectively be a big boy. You know how to use the toilet. You know, they're clapping for you. You're like, yeah. So you grow up to be an adult who handles your shit. You know, cool, you know. But then if your parents are like really angry and impatient with you and calling you all kind of names, even whooping you, this explains the person growing up and they don't give a shit about anybody. And they say, this is my shit. These are the people that go out and they make messes of society. They make messes of themselves. They don't even care. They rebel because, hey, like during those tender years, that's how they dealt with their shit, you know, through a lot of fear and rushing, anxiety. It gives them anxiety when they deal with problems, so they make more problems as a way to counteract it because they said, hey, I tried to fix the problem and they gave me problems anyway. You know, so it's very important we're very aware, right? I mean, and as I back up, I'd like to simplify Freud's way of dealing with these developmental phases because it really goes from like eating to pooping to digesting, which goes into your sexual development, to a latent phase of just living, not really focusing on sex, and developing how you work with life, and then your phallic phase of just sexual, or not phallic phase, but I forgot, but it's basically when you go out there and you start looking for it. So now I skipped the phase. Actually, the first phase is the oral phase. The oral phase, because you eat first. That's because your baby, you know, as soon as you're born, you're gonna be breastfeeding and all that. Like how you handle. So if you're breastfeeding, getting breastfed, then you get your nourishment and all that. You develop, I believe, you have a pretty healthy connection with food and limits and all that. But then if you were denied the breastfeeding, the idea is that you grow up, you develop what you call an oral fixation, where you just need things in your mouth. And it could explain a lot of promiscuous behavior. It could explain a lot of need for attention, how you digest, what you accept into your life. And, you know, and that can lead to, you know, certain eating dysfunctions, discomfort eating and not thinking about it, trying to feel better, trying to feel loved. And then you have the anal retentive stage where you're going through potty training, which we just talked about then. And then what I like to call what they call the phallic stage, which is to me how you build your body, because if you don't eat your food, you're not going to have the nutrients to grow your body, which goes into the phallic phase. And this phase is kind of funny. You know, babies at this time, little boys, during the phallic stage, after, you know, your potty training and all that, you notice that your father's a bigger man than you. He's got a bigger wee-wee than you. Why ain't my wee-wee as big as granddad's and dad's? And so there's this hatred for him, like, motherfucker, like he's bigger than you, he's better than you. And he said, so you want to kill that nigga and go back to your mother. You know, it's all about mama. Mama was the oral phase. That's where I got my food. Then I went out, you know, I learned how to use my wee-wee and I know how to doo-doo. I'm a big boy, but daddy is a bigger boy than me. I'm mad. So they say during the phallic stage, the boy wants to kill his dad out of jealousy and get him out the way for the mother. And the idea is that he can understand and accept that not only is his father bigger than him, but he can learn from him. The idea is he grows up not being a hater, and he can work with authority, work with other people, and be a confident, masculine man of society who accepts himself, and it doesn't feel belittled in his own, you know, shortcomings or whatever.
Right.
Then the toxic way is he can look at his dad like, you know, fuck that nigga, and like, you know, he'll bring him down, but feels scared that he can't do anything to him because he's bigger. So it might give him a little bit of a inferiority complex when he's older and feel like he has to make everything about the size of his toys and, you know, fight with other men and get jealous of other men, and this can mess up their, relationships as far as, it could make them hyper-focus on, like, what they feel in their penis, too. Instead of just having a penis, like, they might overuse it. They might masturbate too much. It sounds like it definitely deals with a lot of inferiority and jealousy. And they say, I think it was from puberty on up. I mean, not puberty on up. It was, I think 7 to 13 was what they call the latent phase, where we're no longer thinking about, oh yeah, before I get there, I forgot to mention the women. He said the phallic stage, the little girls notice, okay, they go to the restroom, they notice they don't have a penis, so they get penis envy from the men. So it's kind of like the boy who had penis envy of his father. The girl said that all women just have penis envy of men in general, and they just mad that they don't got one. And so how they handle that can go with how they handle just being a woman or being, just being the more vulnerable sex physically and things like that, so they could develop acceptance of that. And I do see a bit of a pattern there, because that kind of sounds like that respect level of how you handle respect, because, you could be a hater, or you could just respect that, okay, that's what you got, this is what I got, right, and make the best of what you got, which is always going to be better, because in the end, it really ain't that big of a deal. It's funny, like, and the people who focus on it, it's only going to take you so far. Like, it's crazy, right? Like, the vagina, women can give birth to whole babies, and if your penis is the size of a whole baby, you will not enjoy it. You will not be having fun with that. Imagine that shit. Like, you can't get no pants. You can't go to public restrooms. That shit would suck. You gotta hold it like a baby, because you stick it in the toilet, you dealing with all kind of filth, and you can't even use it. I mean, you can try to use it, but it's more like a blunt weapon by that point. You can't even get hard without passing out. That shit sucks. They're talking about that, like, I mean, if you want to get real, when you get, like, the larger your penis, the harder it is to really enjoy sex. Because then the girl gets excited, but then she gets tired of waiting. It's like, all right, you ain't ready, man. Like, I can just go. Like, I know I'm not the problem. And it's like, right. And the dude, you be sitting there like, shit, like, I brought the party. What you talking about? Like, no woman gives a fuck after a while. Like, after a while, they okay, it's dry again. Like, all right, motherfucker. Like, and, so everything in life has a bit of an equilibrium to it, versus, like, the dude that's self-conscious about being too small, could be feeling like he could be doing it. But pretty much everybody thinks the grass is greener on the other side. There's problems with everything, and there's good with everything, and the equilibrium would be you and your spiritual development, which I really want to get into back in the Jungian psychology. But in the Freud psychology, once you get to the latent phase of 7 to 13, this is where you're no longer focusing on, like, the subtle sexual developmental stuff, but this is the age where you're befriending others and you're finding out society. So you're pretty much living the results of your precursors, and just living as of what they mean in the conscious world. And so you're not thinking about sex, but, you're playing with other kids, you're going to school, you're learning your skills, you're learning about what's good for you in society and all that. And then when you hit 13, you start going through puberty. This is from puberty on to death. The rest of your life, you're dealing with I forgot what it was called, but you're pretty much dealing with, like, the actual, like, having sex and going for, like, dealing with those sexual feelings and all that. So they can show you how you handle your shadow when you look back in the Jungian psychology, where you're dealing with these different darker emotions, these triggers. So back to the anima of the ENFP example, the anima being what other experience? The anima being what one experiences. Yes, what the memory, what one experiences. That connects to the the last four functions, 5 through 8, in the shadow of the unconsciousness. In the unconsciousness through the feeling of uncertainty. There's uncertainty with in our anima, our fourth function. In this case, the ENFP's the feeling of, or the awareness of what they experience as individuals, their memory. This individual can, go, okay, the memory's kind of hazy, but learns to relax with it. There's always a bit of uncertainty there. So there's a mission there. There's a mission there to understand it. First off, that anima can be used to tame the eighth function in that uncertainty by integrating integrating what others are experiencing through the filtering example of what they experience. Just resting with that feeling. This is to understand that in the opposite sex, so the state of the inner woman reflects whatever's going on inside gets reflected in what's going on outside. When the individual has a toxic woman, inner woman, he's going to constantly deal with, more often, toxic women in the outer world. It doesn't mean all the women in the outer world are toxic, but it starts to look like that based on his anima development.
Right.
So what that helps him then understand is he's looking for the mature version of what he experiences as an individual will be stability, having a structured life, maybe a 401k, maybe just things that are proven to stand the test of time and have more of a safer life, as opposed to the exploration and the picking apart of finding all the patterns with what others want and discovering new things. This is more like, this is what's been done for the past, 50 generations of my family, 100 generations, whatever, or of this, whatever culture, and adopting that and being an expert, sticking to it. This is the type of person who leads with internal sensation. They call what they experience, they're an expert. They do the same thing just about every day. They know the ins and outs. They know the history of it. They're super consistent. He can use that in his life. That's what he can understand in a woman in that development as he begins to understand what he's seeking in balancing himself. So, the first stage of the anima. Now, mind you guys, Jung has his own terminology. I'm not going to use it. I just don't relate to it, but I might mention it interchangeably. The lowest stage is Tarzan. No, not Tarzan. That's for the woman. For the anima, I don't remember the anima. They called it Eve, but I'm just going to say sexy. Because the first stage is you see a woman is sexy. This is relating back to your mom. It sounds crazy, but when you're a baby, you're breastfeeding, we go back to the first stage is the oral fixation. That's mama. That's where you get your food. That's where you get your comfort. This is ass and titties. I mean, the ass, I don't know, but there's something about it that, it's very relaxing, right? To a man. The point is, it's the focus of the physical woman. She's built. She's got a pretty face. It makes you feel special inside. Men who've only developed their anima to this level aren't connecting to why they need this, why they would, the anima, right? The specific anima is what they experience, seeking stability in their life. For this individual, he's focusing on the physical of the woman. There's nothing wrong, but you have to develop more focus, right? This is only paying attention to what she looks like. Women have the same development. They call it Tarzan. Basically, these women will sleep with a dude just because he's got muscles, just because he's strong. A lot of guys probably don't see the problem in that. Remember I mentioned the demon function?
Right.
This is how people get demons. It's a deception. When people have one-night stands, they like to say, okay, let's just hook up. Usually they're getting drunk, so they're enjoying themselves more. These are false emotions. It's a lie. It's a lie on both parts. This is where a lot of rape situations can happen. Not just a woman waking up talking about, oh, fuck him. You know, he raped me. You know, she got drunk and then she could say she was, you know, she could say she wasn't aware of herself. You know, he can't say he wasn't aware of himself. But, you know, but the reality is they're both under the influence, a deceptive influence called alcohol. Alcohol is the problem, but society wants to blame somebody. Neither one. What about taking responsibility and being sober and having, you know, the whole consent thing, right? On this level, the only consent is they look good, I want to fuck. So this is a very basic, blunt level of development. It's the lowest development on both sides. And why I'm mentioning both of them is because you attract where you're at. So if a man in his anima development is only focusing on the physicality of a woman, okay, like, you know, what about her personality? Is that really important?
Right.
You know, what about, what does she care about? You know, how does she make you, how does she help your life? Man, I don't need all that. Ass and titties. What you talking about?
Right.
You know, he's going to attract a woman, which both of these are sluts, not just the woman. Just keeping it real. The man that just wants to fuck because she looks good and the woman that just wants to fuck because she looks good, that's that level. He called it for the woman Tarzan. He called it Eve for the man. I'm just going to simplify it and say built. Both of them are just paying attention to being built.
Right.
The second level is when of the anima development is when the man starts noticing, oh, okay, this woman can work. So this is when you pay attention to, okay, well, she can pull her weight. You know, she's capable of, you know, he doesn't just have to, like, she can be a partner. Like, he's aware of her mental faculties. This is kind of where her personality comes into the picture. This is what I call the supplicative level. This is that stereotype where you have the woman that runs the house and doesn't respect her husband. This is when you're watching a sitcom and the guy comes in like, and the woman's like, just sit down. Just sit down. Look, here, eat some food. Just sit down. And like, This is a woman who's logical. You know, this feds the people on a daily basis in their subconsciousness. Hey, the man don't know shit, man. It's the woman that handles it. Yeah. On the second level, maybe in your world, but not in the whole world. This can be very true in the individual's world if they've only developed to the second level anima or animus. And you can see it all around you when you look around. Like if there's any woman on this level, I don't remember what he calls it. I call it bitch. Cause this is when the guy is a bitch because he's just like, yes, dear. And the girl is a bitch because she's just like, shut the fuck up and do this. I got all like they're both bitches. They attract each other. The woman is independent and she wants to be accepted for that. But, and mind you, women are a little bit more advanced on these stages until you get to the fourth stage, which we'll get to. Because on this stage, she's trying to get accepted, but she's in a way belittling this dude. So it's kind of like the combative level, but she's not on that combative level yet. She's just more like, this is the woman who, so if there's any women out there and you're single and you're working, I'm not trying to insult you by calling you a bitch, but this is the stage of development that one would be at when they haven't developed their morality, but they simply just work and are a little bit disgruntled about their work. And you might want to find your values. Same for the men out there. I mean, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to directly call anybody bitches. This would just be the stage of development. You don't have to stay there. But, you know, any dudes out there that are only paying attention to a woman's mind and not her heart, you know, you are doing this to yourself where, you know, you're on this level where in her mind, you're a man of action because this is the second stage for the woman. She recognizes you as a man of action. So yes, all the women out there that are not necessarily single and working have to be on this level. You can be single and working on the third level, but this is where it starts. These second level women that work but they haven't developed their morality. They're the type where they're just looking for a man who, he might look good or whatever, but he's got to have balls. The balls means you go after what you want. So, you know, this is, okay, Tarzan's got muscles, whatever, but does he take action? Meaning, are you going to go up and talk to her? are you gonna go after what you want? You know, be honest with you, you can have balls as a man on this level, and you can hook up with women on the second level. You really can, because she's working. She don't have the morality to check more about you other than you got balls and you look good. That's all you need. Mind you, this is a supplicative level. Both of you are doing these things just to get accepted into each other's lives. So really, you can have balls, but you can have balls and not have a job is what I'm saying.
Right.
This is the level where the woman has a job, but the man doesn't. There's a reason why you be seeing, them relationships with a girl be going to work, and she comes home and, he's playing Xbox. He could be playing 2K.
I've been that guy. I've been that guy when I was younger. I did it once, and but keep going. So I understand what you're saying.
I've been there too. I mean, this is a developmental thing, and all of us could have been there.
Right.
Keeping it real, this is the level where, you're just taking action. You got balls, but neither one is really looking at like the next level, which is for the man. This is when you pay attention to women's morality, their morality of, man, she actually is honorable. She cares. This is the woman who she doesn't just treat you like there are guys out there who don't believe that there are women with morality. Like the MGTOW movement. A lot of these men going their own way. You seen that? They think that women are incapable. Huh?
Say it one more time. Men going their own way?
Yeah, there's a whole MGTOW movement. A lot of these men, they believe that women are incapable of loving a man.
Okay,
they think that, it's good that people are talking about this. I will not belittle anybody's position on anything, because everything should be integrated, and you can't integrate it if you're undermining it.
For sure.
These are real experiences, because these are real experiences. There are men who, they go out there, they work, and they will provide. This is like a man who, honestly, any men who've been out there, I'm going to let you know I respect you for working. I respect everybody for working, women too, but I'm saying I respect you for working. But out of respect for you, I need to let you know, when you experience a woman like that, where you don't feel like she cares, loves you, you're going for low-hanging fruit, brother. You're going for low-hanging fruit. These are women that are on the second level development. Or the first level, be honest with you, if she ain't even working. And I mean, when I mean working, I mean like she can be helping you at the house. Like I'm saying, if she don't even help you at the house, like she don't even do anything to run like her position with you to help make sure that you can continue working. I mean, because a woman can do that and lack morality. But I'm saying like you going for women as low-hanging fruit. Like, you ain't checking to see if they got a heart. You just seeing if they got ass and titties and like, they look good and they got a brain maybe. But if they don't have a heart, man, you gotta go for that third level. That third level, and you can because they're on your level. But if you believe, a lot of men will believe that the man has to be at a higher level, then you kind of already know that then you're rejecting what you could be doing better in. Because you say that hypergamy, the woman has to look up to you. So maybe you tried and it doesn't work. I don't want to invalidate your experience. But be honest with you, though, if you just value that and accept that you're worthy of that, you can get that. But for the women, for them, it's about a man having a job. It's a title. Like, what do you do? On the third level for a woman's animus development, she will attract men based on her development of her inner man. And the man will attract women based on his development of his inner woman. He can actually attract those. So there's times when people attract the woman or man, they attract the people based on their level of their development, but they don't accept that they're comfortable with it. And so it's kind of like being in, I always describe it as being in between that level. Because on the third level, for the man, he's able to recognize that a woman is capable of having morality. But what happens is he ends up looking at her like a god. And this is the situation where that guy will fight for the woman. Like where if anything happens to her, he will be like, don't you do it. And he'll go out there and he'll risk going to prison. He'll risk losing his job because he feels like he found a diamond in the rough. He found like a rare breed, like no woman like in his life that he can recognize on a regular basis is like, he looks at her because she has a heart like she can do no wrong. And this is a lot of that MGTOW mentality is like the man will climb a mountain. He'll kill for his woman. The woman ain't going to do that for the man. And on that third level for the woman, she recognizes the guy is okay. He's a lawyer. He's a boxer. You don't all have to be like and that's why there's this idea about being six figures. Or she gets to be like, he's a merchant. You know, and I've even thought about this, like, what am I really like? You know, I travel, I sell, like, you can be a lot of things, just pretty much, it's just the recognition of how you provide.
Right.
Just for yourself, like, how do you engage the world, which is your mental faculties, which is funny, because that's what the man's seeing the woman for in the second phase, but the woman starts to see the man for that in the third phase, which brings us to the fourth phase. The fourth phase, the man simply sees a woman as an individual woman, an individual period. He looks at her for her pros and her cons. You recognized already that she can have morality, that she has a brain and skills, you know, she has skills, and she has a body. But you also don't get blindsided by her having all these qualities you like, because you're aware that she still shits and poops and, I mean, you know, I said shits and poops. Like, she uses the restroom just like you.
Right.
And she has, you know, she has her flaws, but it makes her human, and you objectively see her as a subject of reality. Like, she's an individual subject of study. Like, she's an individual subject of interaction. Like, this enables you to be, for the woman, her fourth phase, which is seeing a man as a spiritual guide. So how do you give her the spiritual word? How do you connect her to God? How do you connect her to the best version of herself? You have to be able to see her objectively for who she really is. And in a way, this is what separates, even on the street level, this is what separates the tricks from the pimps. Because when you're dealing with, like, hoes, for a lot of people that don't know, like, the whole game aspect of the hoes go out there, and you got tricks, which are just guys who will pay for. The hoe has a pimp that gives her a whole battle plan to go out there and seduce these tricks, how to make it out, how to handle the situation, where to go, even how to deal with their own individual psychology. That pimp administers to her spiritual advice, not just psychological advice, but things that make her feel empowered as a woman, things that, now I'm not saying everybody pimps and hoes, but I'm saying there's a reason for that dichotomy, or not even dichotomy, but, well, it is a dichotomy, but I'm going to just keep it real on how you deal with the interaction is real. Like, the interaction is man to woman. And on that level, that's your highest stage of development as a man, is to be able to see a woman as who she really is and what some would call knowing her better than she knows. You can complement her life. This is now mind you, when I go back to that third level is combative. Because like I said, that man will fight for that woman. But that woman with her morality, like, she sees that man in that position, she could also want to fight to keep that man. She could, you know, but there is a combativeness there present. But there's a competitiveness in the fourth stage where that man is dealing with a different individual, but that's what makes that man stick. This woman, and a lot of women end up getting this in society from the pastor and not their own husband. And that's why a lot of families, you know, the pastor gets more respect than the husband. Well, for the men out there on that fourth level, you know, it's your woman, you supposed to administer. That's even said in the Bible, really. But, you know, depending on your culture, that's going to be your highest stage of development, is being able to administer that spiritual guidance to that woman to see, her specifically. And for the woman, I mean, the woman will recognize that in you, and that's her fourth stage development. But for the man, you got to be able to see the woman as a whole, not just a woman. You got to basically define her under it's a bit of expertise where you know how to handle her. You know how to handle her. But, for all the women who've ever said, oh, well, if he don't know how to handle me at my worst, he don't deserve me at my best, you also got to be able to have the qualities of your best present for that man to even feel like it's worth it. Because there are women that are at their worst, but that man can't make them their best. You got to be at that level where you recognize that man. Just like the man has to be at that level where he recognizes you. So, those are the 4 stages of development of the anima. And what I've learned from them personally when it comes to dealing with sex is, honestly, that first stage of lust is the thing that keeps us from having the fulfilled experience. And I would say it's a more chastening experience when we understand that we can have all that, when we maintain that value for that whole level. But I don't believe in skipping levels either. So, I've approached this from analyzing what women I get hard about. I mean, and that'll tell you what stage you're at. I mean, at least on like the sexual energy control level, is if I find myself getting hard because all I see is a woman that looks good, I have to reject that in myself and train myself to go, just because she looks good doesn't mean it's worth it. We don't know nothing about her. We don't know what energy she's going to bring to us. Because I was saying, like, people who just sleep with each other based on physicality alone, they don't understand what kind of demons they're taking in. They don't understand what kind of resentment they're setting themselves up for, the baggage.
Right.
So.
Yeah. My bad. I was just going to kind of reflect, because I feel like I went through that phase or that level, like I went through those levels, and maybe I'm coming out of that. Again, I can't touch on the levels like how you know what I'm saying, but I feel like I don't look at women now. I see beautiful women everywhere, constantly, right? But I know already that I need that connection. I need. If I don't have that, I automatically will see a beautiful woman turn ugly right in front of my face. You know what I'm saying? And I won't get hard. You know what I'm saying? I won't feel like I want to have sex with that woman very quickly. As soon as we start engaging in conversation, I'm like, I'm done. If there's no substance there for me. So, interesting the way you put it, because I see that me transitioning or just coming out of that other phase or level, you know what I'm saying, where I was just looking at women like that. I still do look at women sometimes like that, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to act like I don't, but for the most part, now at this point in my life, I'm just not interested when we engage in conversation. If I feel like her heart's not there, bro, she turns I'm not attracted to it anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's really, really interesting. Sorry to jump in there, but yeah.
No, I'm glad that you did, because conversation about it is definitely needed, so I can see where you're at with it, and especially if I'm articulating it in a more relatable way, because what you said is real, man, and I'm glad you did, because this awareness can really evolve society, integrating, because a lot of the stuff that doesn't get talked about, there's a lot of misconceptions because of individuals' developments that make people really think that this is the way it has to be. Like on that Tarzan level, it's like everything's got to be, like there are people who hate Jersey Shore, and I don't want to be like, it's all about Jersey Shore, because then that could be projection, like projecting on. There are people who hate Jersey Shore, man. All I gotta say is y'all don't really know these individuals' lives. You've seen how they handle the stuff, but every individual is deeper than what we can judge them for. The only thing that I can say about judgment is we're really judging ourselves. So if we don't trust something, let's just keep it real. We don't trust ourselves with it, and that's perfectly fine. We can just go our own way or handle it, but knowing that we're handling our own development helps take the power into our own focus instead of blaming other people.
Right.
You know, and I would say, like, what's helped me is, because I like to look at it like, if I'm getting hard, that's my natural energy. It is something that can be tamed and trained, because there's a reason why some guys get super nervous around attractive women, and some guys can still handle their business. So
Right.
it's all about how we train that. So I'm talking about, you know, if I'm seeing a woman with these curves and this body, and it's like Jessica Rabbit out of nowhere, cartoonish, whatever, One Piece, whatever kind of, what do you want to talk about? I'm going to be like, that's impressive. And I'm going to move on. I might feel nervous. And if I do, I'm making sure I'm doing what is the most valuable to me. Otherwise, if I choose to follow the little head, I've learned from experience, you think with little head, you get little head.
Right.
So,
right. Well said.
So, you know, just some old school wisdom right there that holds true to this day. As long as people are fucking, that's gonna be real. Like, and honestly, you know, even as it's also been said, like, two roaches can fuck, so it's really not special. People, y'all need to stop saying you in a relationship because you had sex. Like, telling you it's not special. Sex,
Damn.
that's that little. So for me, you know, if I'm hard, I'm already feeling my energy, right? That's a pleasure. That's a pleasure as we get hard. There's nothing wrong with being hard, because sometimes you can just be hard because you woke up in the morning and you just feeling alive, but your mind is really going to be the importance. What your mind fixated on, you know, like,
right.
That's good blood flow, you know, like, but I'm talking about you feel turned on because you see a body. I realize, okay, that body can reject you. Now you just sitting there with a body on your mind feeling good. And hey, if you go touch yourself later, you take away your motivation to really experience it. But then you get to a point where you experience it. Can you experience it whenever you want? If no, then damn, that's going to suck. Like, you know, let's think a little bit like chess, you know, keep thinking ahead. Like, you get this body, you do what you want. She don't really like you like that, but, you know, it was a good experience. You got the memory. And now it's like, thinking of the memory again, it's like, damn, I want to do that again. Call her up, no answer, ghosted. Damn, got to look for it now. You know, now it's an addiction, now it's a problem, now it's not healthy. Now it's, okay, so where is it taking us is really the whole point. So that's all I like to remember, like, is, okay, I'm not going to allow myself to be turned on, excited about just something that exists. Because to be honest with you, we know it always exists. It's a big planet. If we're attracted to ass and titties by itself, there's ass and titties all over the world. So the question is, you know, is it an access to us? And then to walk around with a perversion of, oh, I gotta go get it. There's nothing wrong with liking it, but I learned that it should go through a filtering process of whether we can have it. And then that brings us to the second level of taking action. So when you take action, you go up and you start spitting game, or you start a conversation, or you get to know them, or whatever. You go after what you want. I look at it like, I don't believe in hiding what I want. I believe in always taking action. But that brings you to that next level, though. Like, on the third level, because the second level is, okay, you take an action. You recognize that for the female equivalent of taking action, you got to pay attention to her mind. So when you take action and you find out about her, if you're bored, like, for example, if I'm talking to a female that I'm interested in because I see she has a good body, that's not really going nowhere. It could, like, you could put it to the background, but I just don't feel like that's realistic. I think that it can be less important. But let's say, like, if you're a holistic, or not holistic, but you're an individual who would like to get the whole thing. You see a woman, she got the body, but you ain't turned on yet, but you interested. So let's go to the second level. What's in her mind? You start talking to her mind, finding out what's going on with it, and find out, all right, it doesn't look possible because she's not really fitting my life. Then it was nice talking to you. Keep it moving.
Right.
Otherwise, the perversion of I gotta have it comes in, and now you're supplicating. And that's what a lot of women that have good bodies like that have been used to. Men lowering themselves, hyping them up, getting free drinks, getting free food. And that woman who accepts that, not all these women accept it though, but the women who do have the good bodies and do themselves a disservice and that man a disservice, you know, God forbid even letting them have it, end up older, full of resentment and baggage. These be like the stereotypical woman that is older, looks good. Why are you single? And got like, you get to know her and find out she got a bunch of resentment, a bunch of bad relationships, a bunch of anger about experiences. The reason why she has those anger experiences is because she accepted the wrong men. And a lot of these men she didn't even respect. She might have respected temporarily, but she just accepted because of that. You know, so every individual, you really got to dive deep. You really got to dive deep. But I believe there are women out there. There really are. Like, for every man. And there really are men out there for every woman that are fully attractive, well skilled, with great hearts that can guide and understand each other, who choose to dive deep. But it has to start with the individual to even be experienced. If you don't, like, honestly, when I talk about cognitive dissonance and how we have repressions, you know, when a person's repressed, they have blinders on so bad that they can be talking to a woman that is exactly what I just described. Full-figured, very logical, great heart, and obviously an individual, but will sit there and feel so uncomfortable being around them that they just have to go. I used to experience it. I used to meet women like that and be like, I don't know why I'm so uncomfortable. I feel like I shouldn't be here right now. It's a pressure. And women feel the same thing in the presence of a man like that. And then they deny.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that. Sorry to cut you off again. I just want to talk to my experience to that, bro. I used to not even look at hot girl. Like, I'd be in a room with hot girls, like my friend's girlfriend and her friends or something, and I was so insecure and I wouldn't even make eye contact with them. I would just focus on my friends, right? Like my dude friends, and just ignore them. And it was out of like fear and like nervousness. And, cause they're so hot, right? Or like, that's what I was focusing on too. I would get anxious, bro, like straight anxious. And one of them approached me one time and said, how come you don't ever look at me in my face? How come you never, like, you think that you're better than me? That was like her reaction to it from her side. And the whole time it was like, nah, like, at the time, my simpleton brain was like, how I was then, I was like, I didn't say this to her, but I was like, you're so hot, like, I don't want to talk to you because I don't want to get rejected. You know what I'm saying? Once I got over that and I stopped looking at women like that, now it doesn't matter, right? Like, I could just talk. But even sometimes now, you know, if they're the full package, I have to, like, center myself before I go in to even have a conversation, and I have to check myself and be like, bro, you're talking to a person right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I do have to constantly check myself. But it's interesting how you just said all of that, bro. Like, damn. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I like to hear that because that's confirmation, man. Like, real talk, that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what the shadow functions and defense mechanisms are for. Repression, denial, disassociation. There's so many of them, man. Like, some interesting ones called rationalization. It's like denial, except the person comes up with a idea that has nothing to do with reality and just attributes it to it. Like,
oh man,
I had to go to the bathroom. If I didn't eat them chilies, man, if they didn't put all that goddamn peppers in that burrito, I would have been able to get some. Like, you know, or be like, nah, man, she's a bitch. She's a bitch, man. But bitch, if a woman looks that good, ain't no fucking way she ain't corrupted. Like, you know, they rationalization out of the fear, and it's really meant to protect the ego.
Right.
And it, you know, every human being does it. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Like, it's the same emotion. Women get nervous too. Women get nervous too. They do go up to dude, will find a man who is attractive. He's all this, all that, and will just gotta go, gotta disappear, it's a human thing where it's all about your inner woman, that fourth function, and how you go through these developments. And when you analyze your fifth through eighth functions, you can see more where those specific triggers come up in your reality. And yeah, like that whole thought, the whole process of, you know, and then recognizing where you're at, because, like, again, we're looking at, like, three qualities: the body, the mind, and then the heart. You know, it's funny because I have three very simple, I forgot the word, they're requirements for a woman. Three very simple requirements. The first one is the physical body, attractiveness, the face, all that, like what you look like, is the first thing I notice, and it requires the least amount of reflection. I don't have to think about, well, does she have a body? You have the kind of body I like, I will know without even seeing you.
Interesting.
The second, so, you know, because I don't have to stare at her body. I don't have to think about her body. I don't have to process it. It's just known.
Right.
I see the peripherals, you know?
Right.
I just know. The second thing is, does she value what I value? That doesn't require much thought either, because I'm the type of guy who I go by what I feel. I live through what I feel. You could call them morals. You could call them just personal style. I'm doing me. I'm living my life the way I like to live.
Right.
So I'm going to eventually come across a woman like that on the way. That's just how my life is. So if she values what I value, she's going to be where I want to be. Like if I wanted to go to a concert, for example, there's going to be a woman at that same concert because we like the same music.
Right.
If I like whatever I like, she's going to be there. I don't got to go out my way. If I'm somewhere and I notice a woman like that and I have an intuitive response, then I can go out my way and find out. But that's me taking action and seeing, does she value what I value, which puts me at that third level, like automatically. And I don't have to try anything other than what I chose to do. And if she's valuing what I'm choosing to do, she's in there with me. If she don't value it, I don't gotta stay. It just simplifies it. And it's as simple as what some people call being comfortable in your own skin. This is my soul. This is what I do. If she values what I value, she's going to be feeling me.
Right.
She's going to,
right.
If she doesn't, I don't want a woman, I don't want to be in a relationship where the woman doesn't value what I value. That takes away from my life. Like, so I gotta hide that I like Dragon Ball Z. I gotta hide that I like old school video games. I gotta hide that I like to travel. I gotta hide that I like to play music. I gotta hide that I'm interested in psychology. No, I'm not hiding nothing. I'm doing what I do. And if you are inspired by me, you value what I value, you are automatically going to be ready for me in that fourth level where I can see who you really are. But that also comes down to me taking it there. So basically, I don't really have to think about that either. That's just from me taking action and getting to know you by how the interaction goes. So pretty much I'm going to feel good or I'm not going to feel good. And if I don't feel good, I'm not going to stick around. So it's simple. The third requirement I have is she willing to let me know when she disagrees?